seriously, are you satisfied with your life? That is a very connecting question to ask the reader. And was that deliberate? How did that come about?
No, that is deliberate. That's the first question that I found myself asking myself years and years ago is am I satisfied with this? Am I willing to accept what society, what my family, what my religion says I have to accept as life? Does it make sense? Things just didn't come together and make sense for me at a very early age. There was a dissatisfaction with the answers that were coming across. And I think a lot of people sense that at a very early age. And instead of pursuing that, it somehow gets suppressed or gets covered up, set aside. And this book is trying to, with the first question there, trying to reach into that questioning that people maybe had years and years ago that is suppressed, and they haven't allowed it to come up to the surface as an initial thought.
What do you believe is, quote, the message that the everyday person will get from reading your book, if there is one message?
Okay, the message is a tough one. And you have to read between the lines. It's apparent in some spots, but it's that we live with masks on. We're human beings that wear masks, and we don't realize we wear masks, and we're not the masks. You could call it ego, possibly, but we wear masks. And within this book, scattered throughout, and more in the middle, are sections that pierce the mask, point out that we're living a stage performance life which we do not have to live. Why live the life of an actor from a script when you can actually live a wholesome life yourself? But you have to read closely and study to find out, well, what's Mark talking about when he's talking about living the life of an actor? What's he talking about when he's talking about wearing a mask? Look at the section on so-called goodness. Read through that. Think about it a little bit. That's something that's in this book that really isn't in many of the self-help books. This mask that people tend to live from. It's not who we are. The philosophical question, who am I? Well, why not the philosophical question, am I wearing a mask? If so, what is this mask I'm wearing? And look at that first, before we get so deeply into, am I connected with the movement of the entire universe? Yes, you are. Yes, I am. It's all connected. It's all one thing, just like the Eastern philosophers said. It's all oneness. But if we don't look at the isolation, the separation, the mask first, how do we then expect to get to what is real and what is one? And so that's hidden deeply within the book. I think it's deep within the book, but hopefully that feeling that's deep within the book will hit some people and they'll say, hey, wow, this book says something different than these other self-help books that I've read.
And finally, one last question. Do you believe that there is more than one answer to the same question? And for example, and specifically looking at many of the headers in your book, would there be more than one possible interpretation?
There can be 6.5 billion interpretations. Why? Because currently there's 6.5 billion people on the planet. So certainly we can have a lot of interpretations, but what results from that? The best thing that would result is that the interpretation I would have, that you would have, or one of the other 6.5 billion people, the best result would be, now I've interpreted that in a way that helps me individually, and therefore it helps all. It's globally supreme. The wrong way to interpret it, which is what we've seen over many, many years, through many, many beautiful presentations of truth, is I'm going to interpret it this way, and if you interpret it the opposite way, you are now my enemy, and therein lies conflict. So yeah, there's a lot of interpretation possible. Is it bright? Is it healthy? Is it wholesome? Yes, it is. If you and I change inwardly in a way that helps us.
It's not unlike what Mahatma Gandhi said, which was, be that change you want to see in the world.
It hits the nail right on the head. Right on the head.